All right. Well, should we get started? Okay, let's call to order. Should we do a roll call?
Gregory Wolf,
Here.
David Perderis,
Here.
Kelly Ross is absent, Brad Miller,
Here.
Lindsay Grisey,
Here.
Fred Starrett is absent, Stephen McGank.
McGank, yes, here.
Tim Orick is
Here.
joining via Zoom.
Present.
Leslie Hind is joining via Zoom. Craig Connell, Andrew Logan,
Present.
Kevin Hogan is not here.
All right. Let's first start off with public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to make a comment here today or on Zoom? All right. It looks like there's nobody here present to make any comments, so I think we'll move on. Are there any disclosures any of the commissioners would like to make regarding ex parte communications or conflicts of interest since the last meeting or with regard to the matters in front of us today? All right. Hearing none. Everybody has a copy of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions that the commissioners would propose to make? Okay, hearing none. I think, I guess, do we have to do a motion to adopt the agenda? Can I have a motion to? Okay, nope. Okay. So let's move on to the minutes. I think those were emailed and sent out to all the commissioners. Are there any corrections that any of the commissioners would like to make in those meeting minutes?
Madam Chair, I'd move to approve the meeting minutes as drafted.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. So the meeting minutes of the January 23rd, 2023 Planning Commission are adopted. I think moving on to the City of Overland Park Comprehensive Plan update. I understand that we're going to do some introductions ahead of the discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jay Leipzig, the Planning Director. I wanted to just give a quick introduction to this item. As I mentioned during our training session that we had last month, that Overland Park is involved in or nearing the completion of a major planning effort for their framework OP plan, which is their comprehensive plan for the city. There's been several discussions about that in meetings over the past, I believe, year or so, even longer than that. But I wanted to, in our agenda this evening, is the not only a brief introduction about that, as well as there's a QR code on the agenda where you can click on that and receive the full text of the document as well. But we've periodically had updates to the Planning Commission on this document and the process moving forward. In March of 2023, so last year, Erin Oleg was here before us previously. Wanted to introduce Erin, who is here this evening. She is the strategic planning manager for the City of Overland Park. Has been the project manager for this particular project. So with that, I'll turn it over to Erin. They do have a public hearing that is scheduled for Monday, April the 8th, 2024 at the Overland Park City Hall. And she can talk more about that as well.
All right, yes, good to be in front of you. I see new faces. Jay, gave me a heads up that we had some people that weren't here a year ago. And so have a little bit of background information, hope bring you up to speed, but not bore those that were here last year and heard that little spiel already. So thank you for having me. This planning process so far has taken 18 months. Here's our project timeline up here generally. We just have the adoption process on the right remaining. A lot has been done since we were here last time. We had 2 rounds of public engagement. Those are shown with the pink and white circles in the bottom of the timeline there. We've had a lot of technical analysis, drafting the plan, like the real, meat of the document has taken place over the past year. So tonight I'll just give you an overview of our draft plan. The ultimate decision makers for this planning process is the Overland Park City Council. However, the Planning Commission, and we've had a mayoral appointed steering committee that have been involved throughout the process, giving us guidance. We did hire a consultant team to help us with this process. We had a team of staff members who worked closely with the consultant to develop a plan in consultation with some topical advisory teams, city staff, and the general public. Engaging the public was a very important part of this planning process. When we developed our last comprehensive plan, we did not engage with the public. It was about 40 years ago, first of all. That's how old our plan was. So we were long overdue for an update. But back then, when comprehensive plans were developed, it was planning staff and maybe a consultant or two who would get in a room and kind of make decisions about the future of a community. That was something that we wanted to make sure we didn't do this time. And we went out to the public and got their ideas and thoughts about what they would like the future development of Overland Park to be. So we did have 3 rounds of public engagement, like I said previously. First round occurred in the fall of 2022 and lasted about 6 weeks. Second round occurred last fall, and that was about a month-long process. And then finally, we had the last round of public engagement in February, last month, and that was for the entire month of February. Public engagement also involved this steering committee, which I referenced, the mayoral appointed group. We put out a call for members of the public to participate in the steering committee. We had over 180 people sign up to participate in the steering committee that was supposed to have about 20, 25 people. We narrowed it down to 30. It was super hard. But we also got some teen councils to participate with us, and they were a very productive group. We had a lot of fun participating. Additionally, we identified 4 topics that we wanted to address in the plan. So we identified some steering committee, or what we called advisory teams, to get together to talk about those topics in more general. It was housing, land use, environmental resources, and mobility. So those groups, we had a total of about 28 meetings with those groups. Staff also worked to engage with other community groups and organizations throughout the planning process, made presentations to our own departments and divisions internally so that we're all on the same page, other boards and committees such as yourself, and then just really encouraging people to get involved and to be informed about this planning process. This is the kind of outline of our draft plan. It consists of 8 chapters. The topical chapters are bookended by an introductory chapter and an implementation chapter at the end. The quality of life chapter and the economic well-being chapter were themes that came up during our first round of public engagement, and also as a carryover from Forward OP, which was our strategic vision plan that we developed in 2018 and was adopted in 2019. So we wanted to make sure that we were carrying forward those recommendations from Forward OP into this plan as well. One of the new concepts outlined in the plan is the identification of a strategic investment area along with a map. This is a strategy to focus growth and intensity to areas that we've really planned and studied for in the past. So it's Vision Metcalf, Metcalf Corridor, College Boulevard, 103rd and Antioch, which is formerly called Brook Ridge. It's now being called Meridian, and then the former Sprint campus or Asperia. So the idea of the strategic investment areas is that this gives council the ability to focus resources, whether that is incentives, infrastructure improvements, redevelopment opportunities, and even transit, that these are the corridors that we want to give more intensity to. The big change in our plan is the introduction of a new future land use map. The new concept is focused on a character framework, which is the look and feel of an area and not necessarily based on the use. So it's not necessarily about what's in the building, but what the building looks like and how it fits into the area around it. We call these character types, and we have identified 10, ranging from higher intensity mixed uses to natural areas. This approach allows for flexibility in what could be located in the development, but it also gives some predictability to the public on what it could look like and how it would fit into their area. None of our characters mention the word residential, which I think is an important thing to note. Instead, they focus on a neighborhood. Other ones are called hubs. Our neighborhoods include a range of housing. We identified 5 housing typologies ranging from single family all the way up to our larger podium style apartment complexes that we have. We're focused on public parks and open space and on what the city owns and on native and natural sensitive land areas. And then most other public and semi-public uses are incorporated into a character type. So I have an example here to kind of show what I mean by that. The city attempted to proactively apply a character to some parcels that we think could transition in the next 20 to 25 years. If those areas did transition, we wanted to apply and define what we wanted that character to look like if the property did redevelop. So we did this for religious facilities, private golf courses, and school sites. We have a lot of religious facilities in the city that have a lot of underutilized land, underutilized parking lots, and we're seeing that a lot of these facilities are starting to sell off some of their property. And so if they're embedded in a neighborhood or a rural area, we wanted to be able to kind of proactively say, what would we like that to look like? And the neighbors would have an expectation too, as well as what that would look like. Example here is the Millburn Country Club, about 71st Street. On our previous map, which is on the left, it was identified as a park, even though it is a private members only golf course. If that property was to redevelop, this new future development character framework on the right-hand side said that the traditional neighborhood might be appropriate for this area, which would include single-family homes. It might include some duplexes and also some small-scale commercial sites. Some other changes is that office is no longer a standalone category. We heard from the public that a mixing of uses, particularly in the office areas, was important looking forward. We are limiting the location of auto-oriented uses, so that's drive-throughs, car washes, things like that, to specific areas in the community. And the growth in the south would be guided by sanitary sewer access. Already much of the area is developed as suburban. We have some large lot subdivisions and some traditional subdivisions. And then we also have areas that are more rural in character, but sanitary sewer access would guide what that looks like in the future. We also identify areas where we would protect floodplain along the riparian corridor and open spaces and greenways. And the land use chapter in the plan is the biggest chapter in the plan, and that makes sense because this is a land use plan. I think it's about 50 pages. The chapter includes guidance for each of the 10 character types that looks like what's on your screen here. It has a statement up in the top left, a statement of intent, and then each character type has a preferred and supported use. So preferred is what we would say is the dominant land use for that. And then supported would be something that we would allow, but there might be some conditional things that we would have to take into consideration. Just real quick, on the right-hand side is what we're calling building blocks. And I'll break that down here. Building blocks gives guidance for each character type that talks about transitions, connectivity. It even gives suggestions for building heights. Ranges from like 1 to 3 stories in our lower intensity areas, all the way up to we don't have a maximum in our higher intensity uses. It provides better guidance for staff and decision makers when reviewing a development proposal. They're not just looking at a color on a map, but these building blocks give them a little more guidance on whether or not they think the development is appropriate for the area. And here are the uses that we define in the character types. Again, I said we had 5 different types of housing, ranging from single family up to the larger apartment complexes. And then most of these are already located, I think all are located in Overland Park currently. But some of these we didn't really have a way to address them with some of our zoning changes. So that is new for us. Vertical mixed use must include a residential component. That is something important to note. So here our plan consists of 6 goal statements, 13 development principles that are guiding statements of commitment to land use and development. They were developed by our advisory teams and steering committee. The 36 draft policies, these are detailed statements of direction. What I'm calling kind of position statements for our council to kind of rely on. These are, strong statements that we want to make about certain things. And then 31 draft actions. These are the specific implementation steps. Each topical chapter does have a goal statement. Here's an example from the land use chapter in front of you. I'll let you read it here for a minute. The goals were, again, drafted with our steering committee and tested with the public with our second round of public engagement. And we had positive feedback on all of our goal statements. Finally, the implementation chapter outlines types of actions. We categorize them by a program, policy, or a project. And then we assign a responsible party and some partnerships as well. I think this it's all together in an action matrix. This gives us a good checklist to refer to each year. We have to do an annual review and update of our comprehensive plan. And so being able to, easily refer back to this matrix will give us a good, reference point moving forward. So just a little bit more about where we're at right now. We do anticipate some minor changes to the draft map that's out there right now. It might look slightly different because the consultant gave us the files and we have a certain way of how our maps look. So we're, making it look like our own type of maps. There are a few small character changes as well. We're working to refine and consolidate some of the policy and action language, found some kind of redundancy that we want to clean up, and then finalizing any formatting and spelling and grammar issues, things like that. Staff plans to provide a high-level documentation of what those changes are, and it'll result in a final draft, and that is what the Planning Commission and Overland Park will look at on April 8th at their meeting. Where we are kind of right now, the public reviewed draft for public engagement mostly occurred in February. That's what you guys have in front of you for review. A final draft will be available at the Planning Commission meeting on April 8th publicly. We do not plan to make any changes between April 8th and then the May 6th City Council meeting where they would consider adoption. If there are any suggestions for change, we will document those in a memo, but we want the City Council to review the same document without change for their adoption process. The meeting on April 8th is a public hearing and 1:30 council chambers at City Hall. May 6th, that is not a public hearing, but the mayor has said that he will be accepting public comment at that meeting. And now we're starting to think about the hard stuff, and that is implementing the plan. Really just, it's a big plan. It's a big change for us. And so we're having to do some new thinking about our daily processes, our review of applications coming in right now. You know, when do we start applying this new plan? We will be looking to other cities that have gone through something similar that also have this character type model, and really listen to them, learn about lessons learned and on what we can do when we're kind of making this transition to this new type of land use plan. We will be having an online interactive plan, so we'll be putting that up on the website. And then some of our first implementation steps will be, and the most important, will be updating our unified development ordinance. So that is zoning, that is our law, that is our guidelines and rules that we have to follow. So making sure that those are not misaligned and that they are working together so that we are able to review and approve development applications in accordance with this plan. So that is all I had for you tonight. I'm here for any questions you might have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? I just want to say that is very helpful, and it looks like you guys put forth a lot of work, and it's an impressive plan, and I look forward to seeing how it gets implemented over the upcoming years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, I think we'll move on to the director's report. Jay or others, do you have director's report and updates for us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, Jay Leipzig. I'll turn it over to Sean Penley for most of these, but I did want to make a brief comment on the framework OP plan. The future development character framework that they're using is we have implemented something very similar with our airport compatibility plans based on the safety zones that we have around the airports. And Sean can talk about that in more detail, but it's the same type of idea where it's not necessarily the absolute land use, it's the character of that development. So in case of the airport, if the land use should change around the cities or around the airport, it doesn't make our plan obsolete if the land use changes. So it's kind of a new way to think about it, and it's a best practice, and we did it with the airport, and I think it will be helpful in this process with Overland Park as well. It makes the plan will be more useful for a longer period of time is what the hope is. So I'm pleased to see that. But that's my I'll turn it over to Sean. That's my introductory comment on that.
All right. Thanks, Jay. Sean Penley, planning staff. I would just like to follow up with what Jay was mentioning. So as far as Board of County Commissioners actions, the BOCC did adopt the compatibility plans for both Executive Airport and New Century Air Center on February 22nd. Those were adopted. So you recall we had a discussion with the Planning Commission late last year. Those were adopted by the Board of County Commissioners. And actually, in talking with Aaron before the meeting, I recognized we'll be coordinating with the cities, the respective cities with Overland Park, Olathe, and Gardner to make sure that they have the updated 1 mile buffer map. So that we like to coordinate with the cities to make sure we're consistent with that. So we'll be making sure that they have the up-to-date buffer maps so that any application that's within 1 mile of either airport would go through the official county review and approval process. So, but that's really all we wanted to mention as far as that application for the compatibility plans that was approved. Then going on for future agenda items that will be further discussion with the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. We are getting ready to start a major update to our zoning and subdivision regulations update. If you recall, we talked about that previously as well. So just like what Overland Park's getting ready to do, since they've updated their comprehensive plan, we'll be doing that for our zoning and subdivision regulations, and I think they'll be going through that same process with their regulations. We do need to update that, and we do annual reviews for our comprehensive plan, and we do amendments for our zoning regulations as needed. You recall we had a major one just 2 years ago with the solar regulations, with utility scale solar regulations. So we've done amendments over the years as needed, but we haven't done a major update to the zoning and subdivision regulations since 1994. So the current document we had was adopted in 1994 with subsequent amendments as needed. So we're getting ready to start that process. We expect that will be about 18 months to 2-year process. So it's going to be a lengthy process, but we will be working with a consultant. We are sending out an RFP within the next 2 weeks. We will be receiving proposals from consulting firms. We will select a consultant sometime. We're hoping by midsummer to get started on that process. We will be forming a steering committee with representatives from the Planning Commission and the zoning boards to help us with that process for reviewing, updating the zoning regulations. And it's something that's definitely needed. We have some major updates that we've approved recently that are still vital and will continue, and we'll keep that. But we do need to reformat the whole document and just update a lot of the different articles. So that's a big process that we're looking forward to working with the Planning Commission on. And that's just kind of a high level update. Any questions on that at this time?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. And I think that's all I had. I don't know if Jay, if you had anything else.
Yes, thank you, Sean. Just Jay Leipzig again. Just a quick update. Sean just mentioned the comprehensive plan annual review. We are required by statute to update or verify that our comprehensive plan is current. So we do that every year, usually sometime midsummer. We'll be bringing that for you before you, hopefully in April or May. So we do have a couple of things that we just talked about that will be included is our airport compatibility plans as part of that comprehensive plan. So we'll be talking about that more in the future. And then the last item I have is to we had our planning commission zoning board training on February 27th. I thought that training went very well. It was a lot of great topics but we've barely scratched the surface in terms of the level of content and stuff. So we were thinking that I think it would be helpful and useful to do something like that, perhaps either once a quarter or once every 6 months, and maybe do it more often, and just have have Peg Trent, our chief legal counsel, come before this body for just a variety of things. It can be from the elements of a public hearing process to conditional use permits, a variety of different things. But I think something like that would be useful, and some of the feedback that we heard at that training, I think would be useful as well. So look for those in the future as they'll be forthcoming. And also wanted to mention we have a potential Board of Zoning Appeals case. We believe that will be coming out probably in May. As you recall, last year we reorganized the East and West zoning boards. We consolidated the Southwest Consolidated Zoning Board and the Northwest Zoning Board together. So we had the West Consolidated Zoning Board, and then the Southeast Consolidated Zoning Board essentially remained the same, but we changed the name of it to just the East Consolidated Zoning Board. So the last piece of that is to reorganize the Board of Zoning Appeals, because those members come from that group as well. So we're in the process of doing that. We have an action item before the Board of County Commissioners. I believe it's coming up on April the 11th for that reorganization of the Board of Zoning Appeals. So more to come on that one as well. So with that, I stand for any questions you might have about it.
This is Lindsay Gersay. I don't think we have any questions.
Okay. I'm sorry, a fairly short meeting this evening, Madam Chair.
Nope, this is wonderful. Before we adjourn for the day, is there any old business or new business that any of the commissioners want to bring forth? Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate it, everybody.